Hey, what is going on guys? And welcome to another video. Today I will talk about DLC or downloadable content in video games. What is that? Why do game developers or publishers have it? Why do people hate it so much? And is the overall negative reputation when it comes to DLC justified? Let's find this out. As probably most of you know, DLC refers to game content that is neither part of an expansion for the particular game, like for example Blood and Wine for Witcher 3, nor is it part of the release version of the game, but it is content that you can download sometime after the actual game launched. Unless you bought some kind of premium version of the game, which includes a certain number of DLC, you will have to pay for it if you want to add this piece of content to your main game. DLC for racing games, for example, can be tracks or cars, which you can add to the already existing ones. In first-person shooters, it can be multiplayer maps, weapon skins, and so on. Now, the problem with this is that the majority of the player base thinks that the DLC policy of many developers or publishers is unfair, as they feel that they are being ripped off after they paid a good amount of money for the main game. And as a side note, I think in most cases it's the publisher that decides over or demands a certain number of DLC from the actual developer, if they are not one and the same. So do players have a legitimate point here? To find this out, we have to talk about the gaming industry for a bit. What I will say now is not meant as in, yes, I like that and I am for that. No, it is more like of an objective explanation of how it works without taking a moral standpoint. Okay, so gaming has become more and more popular over the course of the last 20 plus years, and it became a vital part of culture, whereas, say, before 1995 it was more of a niche thing and there was no middle ground between gamer and non-gamer, whereas today games or gaming is way more appealing to people who would not consider themselves gamers. So naturally, the gaming industry is also bigger and there's way more money to be made than in the earlier days of video games. But why is this important to know? Because where money is to be made, the competition in our today's economical system is way more harsh and intense. Game developers, unless they have more or less unlimited resources and can afford to keep developing games for 3, 4 or 5 years without any revenue, are under more pressure to achieve than before, and also the game budgets are way bigger than before. Pressure because publishers want to see their invested money coming back to them, plus the surplus value. Pressure because banks who gave out credit or players who backed projects with their own money want to see results. So it is not like many game developers, and not even the biggest ones, can say we don't care and take all the time in the world to create a game that is full of content like The Witcher 3. There are many strings attached to making a game nowadays. Games like The Witcher 3 are, as sad as it is to say, exceptions nowadays. Games like For Honor, with its relatively thin content, are becoming the standard. Games have, because of all those fixed deadlines the developers themselves cannot always control, to come out earlier and in a more frequent manner than it used to be, and the DLC ensure the revenue flow. So there is an objective economical side to this whole DLC thing. It's not like someone is sitting in an office and thinks about how to make the player base as unhappy as it can get and rip them off to the maximum. That would be conspiracy theory, and I think we really are better than that. But of course, the profits have to be made, otherwise no one would invest in the gaming industry at all. Still, the reality is more grey and complex, so we need to keep that in mind. DLC is, whether you like it or not, here to stay. Now, do I want to justify DLC in games in general? Hell no. There's kind of good and bad DLC. So let me explain. What I want to emphasize are at least two different kinds of games that you as a gamer have to take into consideration before making up your mind about a certain DLC for your game. And only depending on what kind of game your game is, only then will the opinion about the respective DLC be an educated one. First, there are the games that come out and are full of bugs and glitches, and on top of that, the content of the game is relatively thin, although the graphics and whatnot may be great. Those are games where the single player campaign is less than 5 hours long, where facial animations look weird as a cat without fur, and where the reviewers of the game are not allowed to publish their reviews a few days prior to release, so that the potential buyers can make up their mind whether to purchase the game or not. And second, there are the games that come out very polished, only minor bugs, if even that, full of single player content where you can spend 30 plus hours exploring the game, trying out new things, become lost in the different side areas of the game, and so on. If the first kind of game gets its first DLC a few weeks after release, while the main game is still buggy and glitchy as hell, but the publisher asks you for your money in order to add a few new skins, a few new weapon types, a few new collectible cards, or 3-4 cars, then yes, you have every right to be angry and feel ripped off. You did not get the value for your money, and that always sucks. But who is to blame? I think that there is no real game developer out there who actively tries to put out a bad game which plays like crap and runs even on the best systems with 20 frames per second. So there has to be more to the story than they just want my money. Here we have to think about what I said about the economic system, the competition, the deadlines, and so on. Publishers, unfortunately, can ruin the reputation of game developers if they kind of force them to publish earlier than it is good for the game. Big developers like Blizzard Entertainment can afford to tell Activision, "Hey man, listen, we don't necessarily need you, we can take our time to develop this game. You will get your nice results soon enough, so just trust us." Smaller developers can't do this. They depend on the publisher's investment and have also probably hard deadlines, so they can't even accomplish a great game but keep the damage to a minimum. So yes, it is okay to be angry about DLC for this kind of games, but we have to keep in mind that there's not just a person sitting in an office trying to be a dick to you personally. There's just more to consider, and that's what I tried to say here. The DLC for the second kind of game is in my opinion totally legit, and I welcome the new content for the game, and I'm okay with paying for it, if of course I find the price tag reasonable. Because the main game already offers what I expect out of a full-priced game. So the developer has earned my trust that they somehow managed to put a great game out there, and I don't feel ripped off at all. The major difference between a good and a bad DLC is the feeling whether you think that the DLC is just a nice addition but not necessary in order to make the game better, or the feeling that you actually have purchased just 50% of the game for the full price and now need to buy the other 50% bit by bit, and at the end you end up spending twice the full price just so you can somehow have the impression that the game is somewhat complete. So in short, if a DLC is worth it, it really depends on the quality of the main game. So guys, as always, thanks for listening or watching my stuff. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon. Have a great day.